Hello all, I am Jen Jones, Senior Associate AD for Academics and Student Development and the Senior Woman Administrator at Bradley University. As Bradley Athletics announced this summer, we are joining the MVC in celebrating the 50th anniversary of Title IX by spotlighting trailblazing women in Bradley Athletics and MVC history. And joining me today are two of those amazing women who I am so honored and to join and who have played a very important role in my own development. So first, the person who hired me at Bradley 23 years ago, Virnette House-Browning, who now serves as the Assistant Director of Corporate Engagement at Case Western Reserve, and Patty Viverito, who is in her 37th year as the Missouri Valley Football Conference Commissioner. Thank you so much for joining me today. I miss you, Wonder Women. I guess could we start out by just you sharing a little bit more of your professional journey, perhaps highlighting some key people who have helped shape your path?
Well, and I'm sorry, I'm going to defer to my friend and mentor, Patty, and let her start with that.
Okay, mine is sort of a twisted and tangled path, and we could take our entire time in trying to explain how I got here, but suffice to say that Title IX is the reason I'm here, and it's not because Title IX gave me an opportunity to participate in sports. I'm too old for that. It came too late for me to benefit personally, but what it did do was serve as an inspiration for me. So I got a marketing degree, worked for Procter & Gamble, hated it, hated corporate work, decided to go back to school after I took up tennis. I was really inspired by sports participation, realized what I was missing, and decided that I wanted to take my marketing expertise and apply it to something that I could really believe in, and that was marketing women's sports. That led to an internship at the University of Texas, an eventual connection with the husband that I met at UMass, where I did graduate work, and moved to Virginia Beach to be with him and worked in minor league baseball for 1 year. I quickly headed back to college sports with my husband as a trailing spouse and became the first commissioner of the Gateway Collegiate Athletic Conference, which was then 10 universities in the Midwest, 10 women's sports, and Charlotte West, who was my absolute main mentor for all of my years of working, again, really the last 40. She was on my search committee. She hired me, and she gave a person with very little experience and reason to think that she could do this job an opportunity. And then she and all the SWAs that were part of the league then made sure that I didn't fail. So that's why I'm still around.
And congratulations, you just got a 3-year contract extension through 2025. Awesome.
I'll be around just a little bit longer before
just a little bit.
Love it. Fantastic. V.
Yeah, so kind of like Patty, I came a different route. I went to undergrad at Bowling Green, majored in biology, thought I wanted to be a doctor, and physics and chemistry kicked my butt. So I ended up graduating with a degree in biology, and then went and got my master's in higher education, college student personnel, and started out in an alumni and fundraising. But as part of my time as working in alumni, I met with a lot of recruits. The football coaches and basketball coaches asked me to meet with student athletes and their parents, prospective student athletes. And I met with a lot of families of color. And I was recommended by the head coach at Bowling Green at the time, Jim Larinaga, who is still now at the University of Miami, and said, you would be great in college athletics. And so I went to University of Virginia as an academic advisor, and then was able to progress administratively throughout my tenure working in athletics. And for me, what has resonated with me is my connection with students. I love working with students and coaches and working together to help our student athletes just have a quality student athlete experience. So that's how I got in it, and have loved working in this space and working with young people. I like to say I'm in the business of young people.
Absolutely. Yes, I think that we need to remember that, right? It's at the core of what we do is working with student athletes. Patty, I know you mentioned this, that Title IX is the reason you're here, right? And I know this question has been posed a lot over the past year in particular, but I'm going to pose it again. What has Title IX meant to you personally?
Well, it's been the door that has opened for opportunities for women to gain all of the experiences and access to higher ed that men have enjoyed for decades. And it's really remarkable. I am currently listening to Billie Jean King read her autobiography. And just to put it in perspective, she went to Cal State Los Angeles in the mid-60s. For her eventual husband, Larry King, was the 7th man on that university's tennis team. He got a scholarship. She had won Wimbledon at that point and was not on scholarship. So we needed Title IX to get us from there to where we are today.
It's amazing. How about you, Virnette?
Yeah, so I benefited, I think twofold when I started at Bradley University and started at the Missouri Valley Conference, and where I met Patty and so many iconic women who have been pioneers in Title IX. So I was afforded that opportunity, but I was also really, I think, on the front end of just opportunities for women of color. And there have been so many opportunities over the years, and I think it's kind of been woven in with opportunities for with Title IX. So benefited, kind of cut my teeth on Title IX in the Missouri Valley, and then really was afforded opportunities as a woman of color, to sit at the table and to be in rooms where previous to my arrival at Bradley, Black women hadn't been. So that's how it's benefited me.
Excellent. And obviously I benefited from you. You're the one who brought me to Bradley back in 1999. And here I am 23 years later, and I owe so much to you. So thank you. I'll continue thanking you for the rest of my career, I'm sure. So,
well, I always tell everyone Jen's like my best hire. I actually, at the time she was working for my husband at the time, and I kind of stole her away. And she's still there and just has done a tremendous job. And I am extremely proud of what you've been able to accomplish over the years. So
I've been blessed with some very great mentors, you in particular. So
thank you.
I'm curious, we've talked a little bit, you mentioned Charlotte West, right? She's the name that comes to mind in the MVC immediately as an inspiration. Anybody else who's been a great inspiration to you with Title IX?
The athletic directors and the presidents were also extremely supportive of my development and leadership. And in fact, 3 years into my tenure as the commissioner of this women's league, the presidents decided to give me the opportunity to run a football league. And so I was the first female football commissioner. And I was able to demonstrate competence because of all the help and leadership I got from the ADs and SWAs, but it was the presidents that opened the door for a truly historic hire at the time.
Yeah, and for me, I'm gonna have to drop a few names because, if you're a Hamilton fan, I was in the room where it happened, right? So I was in the room with the Charlotte West and the late Mary Jo Wynn and the Linda Hermans and Sandra Williamsons, and I can go on, Patty, Andy Myers, and it was just, just to be in, I know this is going to sound cliche, but kind of rare air with these women who were really iconic figures and who fought, and you, Jen, and I were the beneficiaries of that. So that's never been lost on me. One, to be in the room, but also to be nurtured, to be supported, to be roughed up occasionally when I needed to, like, you're at the table, so open your mouth. Yep. So I mean, so it was that nurturing, that purposeful guidance, that accountability, and where I really learned how important it is for us to advocate and help other women. And I learned that in the Missouri Valley. And I learned that from Patty, and just the collegiality and the sisterhood. And I really mean that, because we keep in touch today, especially at a time where we were on islands. And so you needed each other, to survive and to be able to make a meaningful impact. So I really have to salute the women who were in the room, who let me in the room in 1996 when I started at Bradley.
On that note, I'm curious, sometimes we do need that person to keep us going, right? Or people to keep us going. Who would you think or consider your biggest cheerleader?
I'm going to go first again. All
right.
I'm
always deferring to you, Miss Patty. Come on.
My husband, Frank. And, we met in grad school. And, we did the long distance romance for 3 years before I left my job at Texas to join him in Virginia, took his old job at the minor league baseball, minor league baseball team, which I already referenced earlier. And he was working for Old Dominion at the time. We got married, and he told me that if I didn't find a job I liked, the next move was mine. And he came home from work one day with the NCAA news, and it had posted the commissioner's position for the Gateway Collegiate Athletic Conference. And he goes, "We just found your next job." And he was the trailing spouse 40 years ago. He did not have a job in St. Louis when we moved. So he's been my champion and my biggest supporter. And I would absolutely not be where I am today or have had the opportunities I've had for the last 40 years if he didn't make that statement, stand by it, make that move. And here we are in St. Louis 40 years later, both with wonderful careers in college sports.
Phenomenal.
That's awesome. And me, it truly is my mother. She's someone who I'm the first in my family of 5 to receive a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. So I'm, out of the 5 children, I'm the only one who was blessed to be able to, earn a college education. But my mom, just every step of the way, just pushing, guiding, nurturing, kicking me, holding me accountable, and just always, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Just work harder and you'll get it together. So that, and then people like Patty. And I've also been blessed, as Patty's mentioned, to have a couple of just really great male mentors who have helped me as well and championed me. Craig Littlepage, who's retired from the University of Virginia. We are still, he and his family and I, very, very dear friends, but always someone that I could always call and ask for advice, whatever it is. And a guy on your campus who I consider to be one of my best friends in the business is Jim DeRose. Just, again, just someone as a coach who, confidant, just someone that, always was supportive and uplifting. So I just have been blessed to have just some really great people in my inner circle that have just been really influential to me and to my growth as a professional.
Excellent. And I would echo what Patty said. I think my husband's my biggest cheerleader. Not only, being proud of me, but I have 5 kids, and it's very rare, I think, in this profession to be able to effectively manage, the household, the personal and professional world. And he's incredibly supportive, and one of the reasons I've been able to do this for a couple decades. And then, you sound just like your mother, Virnette. You can do this. You can do this. You got this. I got that from you for a long time at Bradley, and
Yeah.
kept me going. You can do this. And I've so appreciated that. So you were definitely a huge cheerleader for me early on. Thank you.
Always, and still am. And I'm just a phone call away. If you need me, I'm coming. You need me, I'm coming. I have to talk too.
I love you. I'm curious, what is the best advice you ever got?
Grow where you're planted. Don't always be looking over your shoulder where you've been and living on past achievements, but also don't look so far down the road that you don't take advantage of the opportunities that you're sitting right on top of. So grow where you're planted is probably the best advice I've ever gotten.
That's awesome.
I would definitely echo that. And it was share with me, do the job that you were hired to do it well, keep your head down, and you'll distinguish yourself that way. And then you'll get other opportunities. And then I know it's trite, but I think in these times now more than ever, just treating people how you want to be treated, and just be thinking about that in terms of our interactions, how we talk to people, how we interact with people. We are in a space where we have to have difficult conversations all the time, right? But if you're honest and you're respectful in how you deliver some of those conversations, people may not like it, but they'll respect that it's a job that you have to do, and you're honest in your delivery and your intention. So I think, and that was really hard at first, I think, especially being a female in a male dominated world, wanting to be a pleaser and wanting to always try to problem solve, in the most positive way. And, sometimes that's not that's not an authentic way to approach things, because sometimes, you know what, we don't have the money, we just can't do it. So,
Right.
but you know what I mean? But, you know, if you're honest and saying, hey, what's our plan? What can we do to get to the next step together? So, you know, just being authentic as best that you can and being truthful. What if you're truthful? You never have to remember what you said, right? So
Right,
it's just,
exactly.
it's that type of, that's really helped me over the years.
Lead with integrity. Yeah.
Yes.
I would offer something else. You know, I always go back to Eleanor Roosevelt quote of do one thing every day that scares you. You know, I think sometimes we hesitate to try something because we're afraid of failure. You know, and this is one thing I think you taught me, Virnette, is you know, you don't learn by doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? It's okay to try and fail and learn and try again. And I feel like I had that freedom from you to try new things and not be afraid of that failure, which was hugely important in my personal development and then in how I approach my job, you know, with this generation of students. And then the other thing I would just offer as advice to young professionals, you know, both professionally and personally, is pay attention to the little things, you know, to the details, because they can have a profound impact on people's perceptions, and also of your department's culture and success. And then personally, you know, as a mother who has a wide range of children now, I have 2 in college at Bradley, and I have 7-year-old twins, you know, and one in between. You know, those little things in life are sometimes the most memorable. So at this point in my life, I'm really trying to savor, you know, the small moments. So those little things, both professionally and personally, I think are hugely important.
So Jen, I have, well done. And I have 2 questions for you. The first would be, you know, as you're offering advice to young women in this profession who want to try to prioritize, you know, family and their job, which I think way back when it was a lot harder to do than I think it is now. I do think there's a little more receptivity, you know, to being able to, you know, balance both or prioritize both. I say prioritize because balance means that you can do it all, and you can't do it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how have you done that? Because I think one of the things that I've seen, you know, with young people is they've seen how hard we as women have worked in this profession, and we're grinders, and, you know, you're at everything, and burnout. And I just think young people today, I mean, they've prioritized quality of life. And if this is the cost, if this is the toll, if this is the sacrifice, I don't want to do it.
Right.
And so, but we need to have those young, bright women in this profession. So I guess if there's just any takeaways that you could share besides having an awesome husband, Jeff, whom I know, but if there are other things that you could share.
I really do try to keep it real. And I say, hey, this is what it means. I mean, I've had to sacrifice, right? But I've asked for help. And that's probably what I would tell them more than anything. You got to ask for help. Nobody can do this by themselves, you know, and I've needed a lot of help along the way. I need help every single day of my life, you know, and so, you know, I don't want to present this perfect picture of, you know, we can do this and this is how it's done. Everybody has their own experience. It does take a lot of grinding. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a ton of organization, but it takes asking for help frequently, and recognizing that there are people who are always willing to help and who are in your corner.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton said it takes a village. I think she vastly underestimated. I think it takes a metropolis.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what, it takes my kids also understanding how important what I do is, you know, not to me, but also to the student athletes that I serve. And by bringing them to the games and having them develop relationships with those student athletes, like they get it, right? They see it in action. And I do think that makes it a you know, a little more real to them and they can understand. So, yeah.
Well, I work with a colleague now here at Case Western. I'm doing fundraising here, and he uses this term, which I never heard before. He says, don't let perfect get in the way of good.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, you know what? Good is good enough, right? I mean, perfect is just, you know, perfect is this thing that isn't always attainable, achievable, and good is okay. And so
Absolutely.
think that we need to afford ourselves that grace also, you know?
Absolutely. I know we need to wrap it up here, but I just am curious, is there any lasting words of wisdom, something you want to leave people with? Your comments have been so, spot on, and appreciate it today. Anything else you want to share?
I would say don't ever underestimate the power of being a role model. And I think that, there's a lot of truth to, if you can see it, you can be it. And I think all three of us have lived that. And maybe every once in a while we should pat ourselves on the back and say, it was worth all the trouble along the way, because good has come from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and all of that Patty said, and just the fact that I think our student athletes now in the landscape in which they're going to school and competing and just coping with just a myriad of things that I don't think we really understand completely just the implications of COVID in those couple years where, they were really just locked down, and not being able to do the things that they can do today. And so I think mental health and just the role that we all play, I think is really, really important now more than ever. And I think that's really important as well.
Patty, Virnette, I am so blessed to have spent this time with you today and to have learned from you over the last couple of decades. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your immense wisdom and insight with, young professionals, men and women alike. Really appreciate your time.
And Jen Jones, you make us proud every day. So thank you for letting us share some stories.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Jen.